Lameness can come in obviously several varieties and lots of different levels of severity, from very, very subtle to very, very obvious. Typically, I break down, and it's a normal scale from the American Association of Equine Practitioners, a 5-point scale with half points in between. Half out of 5 being ever so slight, not very, very noticeable, and not every step. Whereas 5 would be, 5 out of 5 limits would be non-weight bearing, with differing severities, in between. The typical horse that shows you early signs of lameness will have something that's obvious. When they trot off, they'll basically have a nod when they're trotting, meaning that they'll land harder on the non-affected leg, bearing most of the weight, and when the affected leg basically has to bear weight, they'll lift their head up. So you tend to see them do this, to get off the lameness. For a left front, and obviously the opposite for a right front. Hind end lamenesses, however, are a lot more subtle. They take a much, much better trained eye. Some people will look at the lack of anterior stride. Others will look at whether the hip's even or uneven. I think you have to look at a number of different things. Typically, when a horse is short on a hind limb, they tend to drop it in shorter, and they tend to take a lot of more pressure on the opposite corner in front. Mm-hmm. So you tend to see them being short on one and landing harder on the other coming off that. So it will almost look a little bit or mimic the same side lameness in front. Mm-hmm. You've got to look at symmetry, asymmetry, subtle lameness problems in the stall. Horse will point mm-hmm. or rest a limb if it's a hind limb chronically. And so these are just all routine, small things that you look at for the most early, subtle changes. The earlier you get to it, the better and better off you're probably going to be as far as the outcome is concerned.
That's the duty of the horse owner, is to look for these subtle changes. If being in the stall, checking the horse's legs for any type of inflammation or heat, seeing when they walk, when they're riding them, if they feel any changes whatsoever, that's indicative that could be a major or a more serious problem coming on.
It most definitely could be something early on. So the earlier, the better. So remember, we're always pushing preventative versus restorative.
Medicine,
you definitely want to be ahead of the curve as far as preventative medicine.
Yep.